Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. Wow, is it because it's so warm out? Yes, but give yourselves a pat on the back that you chose to come here this morning. Because I really think when competing with that weather outside, it's not quite sure which way it's going to go. So thank you. So good morning and welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. I'm Reverend Jessica Clay, the minister of this congregation. Happy to be welcoming you to the service today with Wilderness Sairchild, who's my worship associate, and with Irie Mullen, who will be offering a reflection. Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel midweek. We do ask that all over the age of 4 mask while in large groups in our buildings. Please, at this time, silence your cell phones. We ask that all wear name tags or fill out their sticker name tags in an effort to be more welcoming. We also welcome the noises, movement, and mirth that little ones bring to our services. But today, most of the little ones are going to be outside because they are doing a field trip. I know, it's so exciting. I know you all wish you could be going with them because they're going to the beach. I know. But our coming-of-age kids are inside, and youth, let's not call them kids, are inside and will be leaving after the affirmation. Our services, and also our nursery kiddos as well, will be inside and leaving after the affirmation. Our services are 60 to 75 minutes long. If you need to leave before then, you're welcome to use the doors at the rear of the sanctuary. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Are there any visitors who would like to introduce themselves? We can bring a mic to you. All righty, well, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Welcome on this morning, which we make sacred by our presence together. And let's give a big wave to people streaming. Welcome to all of you as well. In community news announcements, who knows what's happening on December the 10th? Holiday Fair. Who's excited? Okay, come on. Who's excited? All right, there we go. There you go. Mark your calendars for this annual festive event. We'll feature photos with Santa for you and your pet, a bake shop with homemade goodies, always my favorite, handmade crafts and knit items, Raj's homemade unique ornaments, holiday caroling, gift items, and decorations. But in order to do this, what do we need? Volunteers. That is right. We need volunteers. Most definitely. We need you. As this is one of our largest fundraisers, we hope you will lend a hand to help us reach our goal. The more successful we are, the more we can support the workings of First Parish Brewster. Do you like to sing? Yes. Do you like to bake? Yes. Do you like to party plan? Where are my party planners at? Are you available to help set up, clean up, and help during the event? Yes. All right. Are you looking to clean out any gently loved ornaments or holiday decorations? Yes. All right. Please get in touch with any fundraising committee member to sign up and offer your support for this event. Can I have fundraising committee members rise so people can know who they are? Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause, too. So you can find any of them during our coffee time and sign up for that event. Also, there are sign-ups in the angle as well. And now our community news announcement about the interconnected web of dining together. Who remembers dine-arounds? Who misses dine-arounds? There we go. Dine-arounds with UUs will find, which means us, will provide a fun way to know each other in small groups of 6 to 9 people by sharing a potluck dinner in a home once a month for 4 months. It's not about a fancy dinner. These will be purely social opportunities where the hosts and dinner groups will change each month. No one will host more than once, and they start in January. They go January, February, March, and April. So this is, our membership committee is putting this on. Let's give them a round of applause. Very exciting, and this is a chance for us to really build community here at First Parish. So Paula Lieb and Lindsay Harvey, I know Paula's here, I haven't seen. Paul, if you could rise so people know who you are. They will be doing sign-ups at coffee hour, so you can find them and sign up for these. Next Sunday, you're invited to join me and Worship Associate Lindsay Strauss as we lead a service on democracy and change. All are welcome at 10 a.m. Following the service today, you're all welcome outside for coffee and conversation. And then what's happening at 11:30? Oh, wow. Are we excited about them? What's happening at 11:30? Yes. How many of you are planning on coming? Yes. How many of you are waiting to have your minds changed about coming? You're like, Please do come. This is a chance for us to hear from you. This is a chance for your community to hear from you. It will not be that long. You will still be able to get out and enjoy this beautiful day before us. So please plan on coming to that at 11:30. We are going to gather back in here at 11:30 and count off and then break into small groups. And I'll be ringing a bell outside to tell you, come back on in. So please do come at 11:30, and we do ask that all participants wear face masks during those small groups. So ends our announcements this morning. Welcome to First Parish. It's so good to be together.
At President Biden's inauguration in 2021, poet Amanda Gorman offered comfort to our nation. She said, in part, "We ignite not in the light, but in the lack thereof, for it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we must find solidarity." When I think about the lessons from the pandemic, I immediately go to the negative, how COVID has been politicized, how our youth have been negatively affected by online learning, how there have been millions of deaths, how scary this world is. Amanda Gorman's words help me to look more holistically at the pandemic and not get caught up in just the harmful results, real as they are. I asked myself and several other people, what are some of the positive lessons you have learned from the pandemic? Here are some of our responses. 1, we found ways very quickly to stay in community through Zoom and meeting outside. We bought patio heaters to use in the coldest months when we had guests for dinner. Because of Zoom, we suddenly had a whole world of choices at our doorstep. I mean, our computer screen. We could attend church, go to meetings, take classes, listen to speakers on any subject we were interested in, and most of it was free. We spent more time communing with nature than shopping for new clothes or hanging out at coffee shops. 2, the racial reckoning that followed the death of George Floyd in 2020 would most likely have not been as profound if tens of millions of American families had not been locked down, watching the gruesome news coverage, inspiring us to confront and discuss systemic racism. 3, we love being home in the evenings, putting on our pajamas after dinner, settling down to TV or games or writing a poem or reading a book. Now that we have more opportunity to go out again, some of us are resistant. Even if we do go out and have fun doing it, we are relieved and happy to return home. And while it's great to be able to hop onto the next plane to Indonesia or England or Florida, the travel lockdown forced us to appreciate what we have around us every day: home, garden, family, community. 4, COVID has proven that we can cope with very difficult, totally unexpected situations when they actually unfold. We sanitized our hands and our groceries, wore masks, found safe ways to gather, found ways to take care of one another. A vaccine was developed faster than ever before, and we learned new tech skills to allow us to stay in community. 5, there has been a creativity boom. Art, photography, gardening, sewing. People had a lot of time on their hands during lockdown, and many discovered the joys of a creative pursuit they wouldn't have found time for before the pandemic. 6, we learned that it's okay to take a step or 4 back. The stress of the pandemic took a toll on our mental health and ability to accomplish our goals. Taking a beat to evaluate what we can and cannot handle is a big part of finding balance in our lives. 7, asking for help is a strength. We had to learn it was okay to ask for support when we needed it. Community is imperative in times of crisis. 8, we remembered to celebrate the little things: sending an email, letting someone know where we were emotionally or otherwise, reaching out to a friend, making coffee. All became celebratory moments. As we light the chalice today, may we remember that though the pandemic has been tough, growth happens as a result of challenge, and the greatest innovations come from the most limiting barriers. If we don't face hardship, we can continue to do things the way we always have. But when nothing is the same and we face significant constraints, we must find new and creative ways to make life happen.
Thank you, Wilderness. Our opening hymn this morning is number 318 in the gray hymnal, We Would Be One. The lyrics were written by Unitarian minister Samuel Anthony Wright for the Unitarian and Universalist youth at their Continental Convention of 1953 and 54. As Jackie James notes in Between the Lines, at this conference they merged to form the Liberal Religious Youth of the United States and Canada, setting a model for the Unitarian Universalist denominational consolidation in 1961. So I want to give you this history because this is a really important hymn, and also knowing this history, that youth set the model for Unitarians and Universalists to merge years before the actual merge happened. Please rise in body or spirit.
We believe in love. We believe in truth. We believe in helping others. We believe in the sacredness of life.
Now is the time in the service where we set aside some space to name the joys and sorrows within this community. And while you name them, Wilderness is going to light candles for us down here. So we will light our first candle this morning for First Parish Brewster member Paul Berry, who passed away a couple days ago. And we will begin by naming our sorrows, and then we will move to our joys. So does anyone have a sorrow they would like to share with this community?
I work with children in a preschool in Brooklyn, and it's been a little disheartening to see the kind of company that I work for not really place the importance of their work on the children and their growth, and more on like marketing and building a bigger company. Yeah.
Sorrow I am feeling now is anxiety about the election.
I'd like us all to remember our friend and neighbor, Ellie Johnson, who passed away last night.
I'm
am worried about John Reed, who has been the head of the Cape Cod chapter of the NAACP for years now. And he, in the summertime, discovered that he has, oh gosh, what's it called? The disease that, Parkinson's, thank you so much. And so he was on medication for it, but then for some reason he stopped taking it, and then he had a heart attack. A stroke. He had a stroke. And he's in rehab now. And so I just wanted to let people know that, and so that he can be in our prayers. Thank you.
I'm just so much feeling the unraveling of our country and the loss of reason and decency and civility like I've never seen before.
My brother passed away this week, Kevin Schneider.
I'm saddened that my son, who is a high school history teacher, is in more danger of dying by gunfire than his father was, who spent 6 years in the Army.
And we will light one more candle for the unnamed sorrows that are present in this room, but on our hearts. Now, are there joys that we want to share?
I have two joys, actually. My dad and my aunt and uncle are coming to visit me next month, and the other joy is, after 14 years of being at TJ Maxx, I just got Associate of the Quarter on Wednesday.
I'm joyous about this fabulous weather we've been having. Really enjoying it.
It's kind of a mixture, but my best friend in Seattle has cancer, and she's been going through a lot of chemo. We've gone back and forth with her. But the joy is that as she awaits surgery, she's still herself, she's resilient, we can laugh a lot, and we're hopeful.
My first novel was published in July, and I just got my first royalty check. I did the math. I'm working for about 17 cents an hour.
I'm excited that Lindsay and I are traveling south in a few days to spend time with our children and grandchildren.
I'm excited that I went kayaking yesterday in November, which I've never done.
After applying for Irish citizenship 3 years ago, just last week I got my certificate in the mail, and so I am now officially an Irish citizen.
So Raj is taking us all to Ireland on his royalties, and you're going to show us around, right? Any other joys we'd like to share?
Shout out for the walking group from this church. They have a lot of fun. There's a lot of, it's a very, very relaxing time, and we appreciate more people coming.
Thank you. And I'll name a joy that we've hired a new music director. You pronounce her name Kaieza. Let's all say it together. Kaieza. And we're so excited to welcome her. She'll be doing some contract hours this month, and then we'll start on Sundays in December. And we'll light one more candle for any joys not named, but that may be present in this room. Thank you. And now, to end our meditation time, I'm going to offer a prayer for our elected officials. This is adapted from Jessica Halperin. So I invite you to settle into your seats, cast your eyes down or close them. If you have something in your hands, set it down. And after the prayer, we will have some silence, followed by singing Filled with Loving Kindness, number 1031 from the Teal hymnal. Spirit of love and justice, be with us today and always. We take to the streets, we write letters, we sing and worship and gather in community. Remind us that our gatherings are sacred because you are there. Spirit of love and justice, be with our elected officials today and always. In the difficult work they are called to do, in the choices they must make, and the lives that they change, remind them that the work they do is sacred, filled with opportunities to bring more love and justice into the world. Spirit of love and justice, we know that life is complicated and that no choice is easy and without repercussions. We know that the complexities of this world is what brings us together as people in sacred community, so that we may better know and remember the love and justice that guide our movements. We are grateful for the choices we can make for freedom and dignity and life-giving power that we claim when each of us makes a choice that's right for us. Sometimes you whisper in our ears, Spirit, and sometimes we hear the roar of your presence in the voices of people raised in witness. You make yourself available to every one of us. And we gather in prayer today to ask you to be with us and with everyone we meet. May every one of us and every one of our elected officials hear and heed your cries, Spirit of love and justice. Spirit of love and justice, be with all who are going to the polls on Tuesday. Help them to vote with their values, to vote for love and justice, for the rights of people on the margins. Spirit of love and justice, be with us as we anxiously await these election results. Remind us to take space to go outside, to breathe in and out, to listen for birdsong, to tend to our spirits in the waiting and whatever comes after. Remind us that we are connected to each other. Remind us to reach out in the waiting and in what comes after, to let each other know that we are not alone. Remind us of our belonging to each other in the moments that are the hardest. For all of these things we pray. Amen.
One more time, a cappella. May I be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Hi, my name is Irie Mullen, and I will be staying masked during this reflection because I am one of the roughly 10 million people in this country who are moderately or severely immunocompromised. Sorry. For whom COVID remains a deadly threat, regardless of vaccination status. I know that for those with hearing challenges, masks can make it more difficult to understand, so I will try to speak slowly to be as clear as possible. I ask and encourage you to raise a hand if you are comfortable, to let me know if I am not coming through to you clearly. I will try to see, and to that end I should probably put my glasses back on. Immunocompromised people make up approximately 3% of the US population. As a person who takes a biologic agent to treat rheumatoid arthritis, I am in the moderate risk category for immunocompromised people, along with the people receiving treatment for common forms of cancer. Still other people, like those with organ transplants and blood cancers, are even more vulnerable in the severe risk category. Both of these groups are at higher risk of death or hospitalization from a COVID infection, and also can have limited or absent responses to vaccines and boosters. Despite this group continuing to experience a COVID risk that equals or exceeds that experienced by the general population in the earliest months of the pandemic, the current public health response doesn't direct attention or special efforts towards protecting us. We remain largely invisible, or at least forgotten and set aside as quickly as other fleeting concerns of the early pandemic. Our continuing need to mask, restrict contact, and stay safe in public spaces now seems as outmoded as in the so-called pandemic, post-pandemic world, as toilet paper shortages, sourdough starters, Pelotons, and Zoom cocktail hours. I don't know if anyone remembers those. And so it falls to us as individuals to educate, to advocate, to set safety boundaries, and to withdraw when our safety is not prioritized. This affects our relationships with our employers, our friends, our family members, and the communities in which we live. It can be relentless, isolating, demoralizing, and hard to put into words. So the best way I can try to express it to you is as a question in verse. Where am I now when we are no longer us? In the beginning, we were separated in community. We were isolated together. We found solidarity in relentless loss. We found support in our grief. Our limitations protected us, and we masked to fight a threat. Our risk was immediate, personal, and universal. Together, we hoped for a vaccine, a cure, an end. And for you, it came mostly the joy, the relief, the intimacy of unrestrained connection, the sparkle of uncontrolled spontaneity, the optimism of a more certain future. But where am I now when we are no longer the same? When I am not aboard the joyous train to the post-pandemic world. When I'm still behind at the station, watching you recede into the hopeful horizon. Where am I now? When I am often separate from the community. When you are together, and I am still isolated. When I feel the relentless loss of solidarity and grieve last year's support. When my protection is your limitation and my fight for masks is your threat. When my risk is distant, impersonal, and rare. Where am I now when people ask, what's your plan for going forward? And there is no plan. There is no forward. Where am I now? I am still here with you.
Thank you, Irie. Let's just sit and absorb those words for a moment. I'm going to amend the plan in the order of service and say that we sing Comfort Me instead of Wake Now My Senses. We can just sing it a cappella. And you don't need to know the words because it's really easy. Comfort me, comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. And so we'll do Comfort Me, and then we'll do Be With Me, and then Stay With Me. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort Comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Be with me. Be with me. Be with me. Be with me, oh my soul. Be with me. Be with me. Be with me, oh my soul. Stay with me. Stay with me. Each week we have the practice of splitting our offertory plate. Half of what's collected goes to the work of First Parish and half goes to an organization nominated by one of you. This morning's offering is a split plate with the Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project. This project was begun in 1993 under the direction of Jesse Littledoe Baird. Its mission is to return language fluency after 150 years of dormancy to the Wampanoag Nation as a principal means of expression. There are a couple of ways you can give today. You can text to give, the number's in your order of service. You can place a check or cash in the offertory basket. If you're online, you can go onto our website and give that way as well. However you choose to give today, we thank you for your generosity. The offertory will now be gratefully received.
Good morning. Or is it afternoon? Towards me. Up. It's up. It's up. Hello.
Should be on number 2.
That's okay. No? Okay. Because I have a big booing voice like my cello. Just a short intro on this piece. It's a lullaby by George Gershwin, Summertime, but it's a lullaby in a minor key. The lyrics talk about everything hopeful, everything beautiful. The fish are jumping, the cotton's high, but the baby is crying. And how do you soothe the baby in a minor key? I think the message of Summertime is, yes, we live with pain, but let's not forget there's still beautiful summertime that lives in all of us too.
She said, even if it's sad, there is some beauty. Thank you, Lisa. I'll begin my sermon with a quote from T.S. Eliot. This is in the back of our hymnals as well. What we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the very first time. Let me repeat that last line. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the very first time. Recently, I read Dhruv Kular's piece, Pandemic Trade-Offs, in The New Yorker, and it speaks of Isaiah Berlin. Does anyone know who Isaiah Berlin was? You all need to buff up on your 20th century philosophers, I'm telling you. Isaiah Berlin coined the term value pluralism. This basically means that to live this life, we have many values, and sometimes, if not always, they are in conflict with each other. Value pluralism. Our opportunity in this is to figure out a balance, to figure out an equilibrium, because it's impossible to have it all. And throughout this whole pandemic, we have had conflicting values the whole time. Isaiah Berlin wrote that our aim should be to maintain a precarious equilibrium that will prevent the occurrence of desperate situations, of intolerable choices. This is the first requirement for a decent society. And therefore, with the pandemic, our ability to maintain this precarious equilibrium became challenged, and for many, it still is. That the occurrence of desperate situations, of intolerable choices, is still a fact of daily life for many people. And for others, they have found this equilibrium. They've calculated the risks, often dependent on health privilege, to make the choices that are best for them to move through the world and engage with it. And we see this value pluralism in all aspects of daily life, but also in our education system. Children are returning to school, have returned to school this fall with no masks, most of them. Some parents are choosing to keep their children home because there aren't masks anymore. And we've seen this conflicting values through the pandemic, especially in our schools, the value of we know they need education and they need social opportunity together, but how do we keep them safe? Our theme this month is change. And we all know that change is inevitable, but the change that came with living through and continuing to live with this pandemic is still being discovered. We are not in the after the pandemic, despite what the title on your order of service says. We are definitely not after. And the effects of how this pandemic has changed us as a society, we are going to be realizing and processing for many years. Recently, I was speaking with a friend of mine whose child began kindergarten this year, and they had parent-teacher conferences last week. And the teacher was talking about how hard it is to teach the kids this year, in part because there are so many, and in the teacher's words, she called them COVID kids. Kids who had never been to school until this year because of COVID. So they had never gone to preschool. They hadn't been in this routine. So here they are thrust into kindergarten, having to learn all these norms that many of us learned before kindergarten. And these weren't easy choices for parents trying to manage work and childcare in the midst of not being able to vaccinate their kids for so many years, in the midst of limited social exposure for all these kids. This had an impact, and it still does. The wait lists alone for mental health services for children is astounding right now. And this is just one of the many ways that we have been changed, that a whole generation of kids have been changed. And we're processing this as it's occurring.
I'm having these conversations about how we have changed and what we are like now with some of you over your dinner tables and in meetings, and recently I had a long chat with our district representative. We're figuring out how this pandemic has affected this congregation, and there is no hard and fast answer. What's true is we are in a process of forming and reforming, which happens after great trauma. The trauma of living through the pandemic, the trauma of Penelope's death, the change happening within our nation, these are all affecting us from the cellular level to the soul level. My clergy coach, Jake Morrill, and I've said this in sermons before, says that the first 5 years of a ministry is the whole congregation resettling itself around the minister. That the people who were in leadership will move back from leadership, other people will move forward, that key members of the congregation will leave, and other new people will join. There's this forming and being reformed constantly through those 5 years, that change is constant. And as we're in my 6th year here, and the last 2 years were of the pandemic, I would say we're still in the forming and being reformed. But it's not just around me, it's around this whole community. Forming and reforming around each other. It's about tending to each person's spiritual needs while figuring out what level of risk they're willing to take to get those needs met. Value pluralism in action. Having the value of wanting community, needing those close connections, and being aware that as it gets colder, those may diminish for some who don't feel comfortable having people in their homes or going out to eat. Yesterday, I did a highly scientific poll on Facebook to ask how people have been changed by the pandemic. The answers were wide and varied. People said they spend considerable time prepping for potential disasters now. Someone else said they're a more efficient cook and grocery shopper. Someone else said good and bad, but the biggest thing is that they actually take life at a much slower pace and take better care of themselves. Someone else said they embrace being more of an introvert than they ever used to be on the weekends. Someone else said they got the mental health help they needed by getting on an antidepressant. Someone else said they learned that their job is not their entire life, that making time for friends and family is so crucial to happiness. And someone else said that they learned to set limits and boundaries about what they were willing to tolerate and what they weren't. So I invite you to think, how have you been changed by this pandemic? There are changes of the losses of the pandemic and how those have changed you, the heartbreaks of the pandemic. And there's the changes that have lifted your hearts, that have comforted you. So think about how you have been changed by this pandemic. Maybe they were hard changes. Maybe they brought you joy, were surprising changes. So now we're going to take 5 minutes. We can do this in 5 minutes, right? Oh, we can do this in 5 minutes, right? Okay. We're going to take 5 minutes. I want you to find someone you did not come with and who is not your BFF who's sitting next to you, and share your changes. So take about 2 minutes each. So you can't share all the things. Maybe just share 1 or 2. Please keep your masks on for this. Go. I'm going to keep ringing it. Thank you for sharing with each other a little preview of our listening circles. We're not going to talk about that, but a little preview of the connection to be found in our listening circles. So we just have time for maybe like 2 or 3 people to share. Wilderness is going to walk around with the mic, number 1. And is there anyone who'd like to share briefly? Y'all were super chatty a minute ago.
I just shared that through the pandemic, my friend here, Barry, and some other folks, his wife and Pat and Sue Gubbins and Laura, my wife, and some other people spent a lot of time biking and being outside and coming back and having dinner together around a fire and with electric blankets. And so it just, for us, it just opened up some really nice new friendships that are lifelong.
Nice. Thank you.
And I shared, despite being a clear introvert, I missed the connection with people.
Yep. He said being a clear introvert, he missed the connection with people. And we'll have one more.
My partner talked about how she had never before washed her vegetables and everything when she went shopping. Now she washes. And she was very worried about the health. And so I said, the thing I missed the most is none of my children live here on Cape Cod. And so many times during the COVID, they would call and say, Mom, I can't come because I tested and I'm positive. And although they all had the shots, they did continue to get COVID, some of them. And so luckily they weren't terribly sick, but that was a terrible worry for me when they would call and I missed them and worried that, well, you worry, you know, but anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing with each other. I hope you continue to share, because the truth is we don't know the whole of how we have been changed by this, and that will emerge over time, and we are forming and reforming together. And the concept of value pluralism means that we're always going to have competing values, and striving for equilibrium, striving for equanimity, for ease among them is a daily practice. So in this time of change and being changed by what has happened and by what will come, I invite you today to really commit to your spiritual practices. As we head into fall, even though it doesn't feel like it outside, and winter, it's going to come, take this time of the fallow season as a chance to go inward, to journal, to meditate, to practice mindfulness. So as these changes continue to come, you'll have a solid foundation under you to weather them. And remember that this community can keep holding you through whatever may occur, through loss, through grief, through joy, through change. This community is here to help hold you. But we need you to keep saying yes to it, to each other, and to say yes to life. We hope that you will say yes to the listening circles after the service. Yes. Let's try that again, to the listening circles after the service. Yes. All right. Little more enthusiasm, but maybe the coffee will help it. We hope you will say yes to continuing these conversations with each other, to continuing to strengthen the bonds of this community that are in this time of forming and reforming. We hope you will keep saying yes to this world we live in, even when it breaks your heart. Amen. And blessed be. Please rise for our closing song, What a Wonderful World. The words are on the back of your order of service. I see trees of green.
Will you turn and face each other? Look at the people around you. Say hello. Say hello to someone else. Our benediction today is from Laura Lynn Bellamy. If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If here you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace, dear ones, and keep continuing those hellos as we move outside for coffee hour, and then we'll come back in here for the listening circles.